What's up, buddy? How you doing? How you feeling about this Amber Heard trial? It's an interesting time. It's an interesting trial, and there's a lot to talk about. You'd think with the trial being over that the coverage would start winding down, that we'd have less and less to talk about. But the thing is, we're now having a different discussion. And that discussion is whether or not YouTubers should be granted the same rights and abilities as the mainstream media to talk about these stories. Now, I think the answer is pretty clear. Maybe I'm biased as a YouTuber, but I see no reason why I should not be able to comment on trials like the Amber Heard trial, give my opinion, get the facts as best I can. I do try to remain trustworthy and find good facts and not mislead people. And honestly, I don't see a lot of YouTubers who were misleading people during this trial. I saw a lot of good evidence and people talking about the facts of the case. But we're now seeing some in the mainstream media trying to slander myself and other creators and say that we spread disinformation, that our information about this trial unfairly biased people against Amber Heard, that this was more complicated than we put out there. And Heard, you know, they're on the fence because they know Heard is an imperfect person to be pointing to. They go, well, she might have done some things wrong, but, you know, Johnny did some things wrong as well. I mean, look, I don't think Johnny's a perfect individual. Yes, he's you know, your typical Hollywood bad boy, smoking, drinking, fighting, whatever. But I think clearly we saw from this case that Amber Heard was the one who was in the wrong. And I don't think it's wrong for us to have taken that opinion. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about whether or not YouTubers are allowed to talk about these trials, or if they're going to find a way to stop us in the future. Because they're already saying they're going to try and find ways to stop YouTubers from talking about these trials. We're going to get into it. Subscribe to me while you can before I get banned for talking about this stuff. And let's take a look. Now, interestingly, real quick, let's remind ourselves that the heart of this trial was this op-ed in the Washington Post. I want you to remember that name, Washington Post. That's an important name. In this article, Amber Heard, though she tried to dance around with some very creative language, essentially accused Johnny Depp, and I think this is one of the most important things here in this headline, of sexual violence. And that was at the heart of this trial. They said, well, Amber, if you're going to put out an article accusing Johnny Depp of sexual violence, you need to be able to prove that. And unfortunately for her, fortunately for the truth, we found she had no evidence. That this was made up. If Johnny Depp ever did anything to this woman, there is no evidence to support it. And she lost this case. And in fact, there's plenty of evidence going the other way that shows that she indeed was the one committing sexual violence. I mean, my God, we've all seen the pictures of Johnny's severed finger. Her admit to hitting him, slapping him, all sorts of things. So this was a crazy case. But again, the Washington Post is who put out this article. They should have walked it back. They've now added an editor's note saying that, you know, talking about the outcome of the trial, but have not apologized for publishing what ended up being fake, unsubstantiated. And we now have from the same outlet, the Washington Post, from a journalist named Taylor Lorenz, who some of you may have heard of, a muckraker. She is always going after content creators and saying that we're the ones ending the world. Now posts who won the Depp Heard trial. Content creators that went all in. Influencers discovered there's money and clout to be made in covering breaking news. So, this is a wildly confusing article. I am just confused as to what the purpose of this is. Let's be clear. Influencers discovered there's money and clout to be made in covering breaking news. How is this a story? This is yeah. What do you think influencers do? We find news stories. A lot of us, not every influencer, but for a lot of us, our bread and butter is to find interesting, trending news stories and talk about them. This isn't something we suddenly stumbled upon because of this trial. Like, wow, can you believe it, my fellow creators? People are interested in current events. Why has no one ever done this on YouTube before? This almost feels like it was written by a child. Like, what is even the thesis here? Well, I'll tell you what the thesis is, and she's burying it a little bit. She's using nice language, I guess. But it seems to be saying that for some reason, there's something sinister about the idea that us creators, when we find a story that sticks, we keep reporting on it. Now, I don't think that's I don't think that's immoral. I mean, that's just the way even the mainstream news will do it. You'll go on court TV, okay, and if there's a court case that has the nation's attention, Casey Anthony, O.J. Simpson, whatever else, they don't say, well, we've talked too much about this story. We really, for the fairness of the news, we need to move on. No! If you find a topic that people are interested in, it makes sense if you have the eyeballs on your content to keep making that content. Me, I didn't touch the Heard trial nearly as much. I was busy this month, sadly. I should have done more with it because it was a popular topic. But I've had my own topics that I've found. Star Wars has been a huge thing for my channel. Even recently, talking about the Star Wars Hotel. Okay, and yes, because Hi, Scraps. How are you? Scraps is mad that she's not outside right now. Scraps, go do anything else and let me make videos. So yes, sometimes we find a topic that works, and we continue to report on it. We find new angles to talk about it. I don't see how that's immoral or wrong or any different than what the mainstream news does. And that's why I really take issue with this strange article. Now, Taylor says this trial offered a potential glimpse into the future of media, where content creators serve as the personalities breaking news to an increasing number of viewers and in turn define the online narrative around major events. Okay, this is not different. This is not new. Whenever I think of these court trials, I think, have you ever heard of Nancy Grace, a famous court commentator who has her own show where all she does, I believe the Casey Anthony trial, she was one of the first people to jump on it. She talked about it every single day on her show. And that is who people went to, not only for news about the case, but also for opinions. Her opinion, I agree with, was that this Casey Anthony lady was very clearly guilty. So now that it's moved online, you're suddenly confounded by the future of media, that personalities are, I guess what, because now online personalities were different from Nancy Grace or any other, news commentator. There's always been news commentators, Rachel Maddow, I don't know, Keith Olbermann, but he's been off the news for a while. Yes, now news commentators are finding a home online. And maybe you don't want to think of us as newsmen and journalists, but that's just what's happening. I don't know what to tell you. She says these creators can also bring in major personal profit in the process. In this new landscape, every big news event becomes an opportunity to amass followers, money, and clout. How is this different from the news? How is this different from any other news station on earth? What are you talking, like, when I go on Fox News, they're not just finding the most boring things to talk about. They're always talking about topics that are going to keep the audience watching. And they don't want the audience to keep watching just for the sake of having people watch them. They do it because it brings in advertising dollars. To survive in a capitalist system, you have to do things that are popular and make money. Well, why are you reporting on this like it's some new thing that you've discovered? Now, here she insinuates that we as content creators are not being honest because we know that if we say anything good about Amber Heard, we're going to lose followers. Let's see. Content produced by social media influencers skewed heavily pro-Dep, with economic bias playing a big role. Now, this is a big assumption that is not backed up by evidence. She's saying that the only reason that all these content creators supported Johnny Depp was because they're greedy, because they want money. No, we looked at the trial. We looked at this whole era of cancel culture, which I think the average person hates the idea that you have one bad relationship and all the good work you've done in this world goes down the tubes and you lose your life and your career forever. I think the average person finds that literally insane. And we have an example, again, of a lady who is friggin' nuts, is on audio recordings saying, no one will ever believe I abused you. I have all the power. I cut off your finger. I pooped in your bed. I don't think that the way we chose to report on this trial was, well, we'll just make more money if we're on Johnny Depp's side. This is a crazy lady. I mean, am I wrong? And maybe there's somebody out there who really didn't care about the case and was just reporting on it specifically because they wanted to make a couple bucks. But you got to give me more evidence of that than Rowan Winch, a 17-year-old content creator. And if you read this article, most of the quotes she gets are from like 17-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old guys. I don't know what the young guys are doing, okay? Yeah, maybe if you're watching this trial on TikTok, like a psychopath, maybe you're getting some bad information from teenagers who don't know what they're talking about. But to use this guy to try and slander a lot of other people, and they talk about channels like Legal Bites, that umbrella guy, here's the quote: "When people do post stuff trying to defend Amber Heard, they will lose followers. A lot of major content creators probably don't even care about it that much. They just care about the views that it gets." This is an assumption. A lot of major content creators probably don't even care about it that much. Okay, well, that's Rowan's opinion, but I'm going to say it's wrong. You look at a guy like that umbrella guy, he's been covering this trial for like 3 years. I can't imagine he doesn't care about it. If anything, he seems like a little overboard. I'm like, buddy, you and Johnny Depp are not going to hang out anytime. He's like, this is a personal thing for me. And I'm like, well, God bless you. Get it done. My buddy Andy Signorio talks about this trial, which I understand it hits very close to home because Andy himself was subject to this kind of unfair cancellation scandal. I think these people do genuinely care about the case, and to say they're doing it just for money is disingenuous. And here's where I'm really upset, because she says as more people turn to online creators for information, misinformation flourishes, and the trial could provide a playbook for anyone looking to leverage the creator economy for their own gain. Author Joe Federer says you can see how manipulating a TikTok algorithm and planting the right information with the right influencers could cause a real misunderstanding of important issues. Okay. But this assumes that there was some sort of misinformation in the people reporting on this trial. I haven't seen that. Why do you not have an example? If there's misinformation, if somebody lied about something Amber Heard said or did. Now, I will be fair. There was at one point a part where somebody tried to claim that Amber Heard had stolen part of her testimony from a movie called The Incredible Mr. Ripley, and they said, "Oh, she went into that movie and she took a line from that movie and she was using that for herself." But I actually saw content creators debunking the misinformation and saying this story is false, stop spreading it. I didn't see anyone put out a video with it because they wouldn't be caught dead putting out a fake story like that. So if anything, I think that the people covering the Johnny Depp trial have done an incredible job of fighting the kind of misinformation that you might see on like a regular social media post, on a stupid viral post. And they said, well, I'm not going to include that in my coverage because it's wrong, because it's fake. And we should recognize that, and we should salute the community for not helping spread that misinformation. I'm sure you could have done very well with that stupid story that, oh, Amber Heard, she can't even come with anything to say on the stand, so she's now ripping off movies. Yeah, that might have been a video that a lot of people clicked on because that's a sensational story, but it was wrong. And that's why these guys didn't post it, because they have ethics. They're not going to just lie to their audience. And that's something that's being overlooked. Point is, guys, we're now hearing about little initiatives going around where the mainstream media is very upset at how much attention influencers and content creators got. Because the mainstream media, they didn't really cover this trial in the same way. They didn't understand how important it was to people. And if you looked at who was getting all the live stream views, it wasn't Fox News, it wasn't NBC, it wasn't CNN, it was guys like Andy Signore, Nick Rekieta, that umbrella guy. They were the ones getting all the views, and the mainstream media is very upset about this. They are already talking about various initiatives. They want to stop broadcasting trials so that we're unable to comment on them, or they want to make it, one thing that was suggested is that during court coverage, that YouTube will not allow you to send super chats in the future. So you cannot donate money to streamers who are covering these stories. This is all crazy. And I honestly believe they're going to say whatever court footage is out there, because unfortunately us YouTubers, we can't get in the courtrooms. We can't, live stream the footage ourselves. We have to use these court feeds. I think you're going to see a lot of copyright strikes. They're going to say, well, you're not allowed to use that court footage unless you're on the approved media list. All you influencers, we're going to shut you down. I even saw this, and this is coming from a member of Parliament. I believe, I don't know if this is the British Parliament or what. Yes, Parliament.uk. So a member of the British Parliament says the impact of influencer culture on our consumption of news is something that needs to be taken into account in the online safety bill. Misinformation and media literacy are glaring omissions from the legislation, and this is her responding to the Amber Heard trial, that she wants to pass a law to regulate what content creators are allowed to talk about, how they're allowed to talk about it, what information they're allowed to put out. Now, she deleted this because everyone said, my God, you're saying it, you want to criminalize independent journalism. You want to criminalize having an opinion? That's really what this is. Us influencers and content creators, we looked at the trial and we had an opinion. We talked about it. How could you talk about we need to make that illegal? This is pure insanity. So I don't know where we go from here, guys. But I'll say this. You should be worried. You should be worried. If you have content creators you follow and you think gave you the right opinions on this case, or, gave you information that was valuable, or just, even if all they did was provide, I don't know, a story to read, entertainment, whatever else, that we're now being called demons. They're saying we're only in this for the money, that we've never cared about anything we've talked about in our lives. Guys, I think when I talk about a topic, I care about it. And it's sad that the mainstream media thinks, well, I don't know if they truly believe that we're evil, bad people, or if they just don't see we're doing the exact same thing you guys are doing. We find popular stories and we talk about them. How is that? What is the problem? How is this bad? It's insanity. This is insanity, and I'm worried because the mainstream media has a lot of power and a lot of influence. If they want to silence us, they could find a way. It could happen. So, guys, all I can say is one of the most powerful tools you have in your arsenal right now is to subscribe. And not just to me. Let me be clear. Any influencers, any content creators that you have followed throughout this trial, make sure you're subscribed to their channels. Keep tuning in, because they will constantly work to diminish our influence. If not ban us, I mean, who knows? At some point, they might just start taking our channels away and say, you guys are peddling misinformation. You were mean to Amber Heard, and we just think that's so wrong that you don't belong on our platform anymore. I don't know. They're nuts. They could do anything. So please support your local content creator. Subscribe to their channels, whatever else. Throw them if you're watching, a big, long 3-hour live stream of the trial, kick them $1 or $2 while the super chats are still legal, because they're going to take those away. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. We got more videos coming soon. Check out my comic book, Super Killer, over at superkiller.org. I'm excited about that project. And let's hope, I don't know, the mainstream media doesn't shut us down. They don't like us. And it's a sad state of affairs.